Antifa. Antifa is a buzzword, and I'm going to talk about the buzzword. So stay tuned. Now, there's always been a subgroup of lefties, Marxist communists, floating around the Western world. Sometimes they become more prominently known in the media and sometimes they don't. Thinking of Germany has had quite prominent groups that committed terrorist activities. When I was 17, I hung out for about 4 months with a group called the New Age Gypsies in England that definitely were a type of an Antifa band, but what they actually did was try and keep separate from society rather than change society. So these types of groups have always been around, as fascist groups have always been around. You know, the Klan's always been around, there's always been racist groups, there's always been that sort of thing. And the modern echo chamber of YouTube tends to amplify the effects and the threats from minor issues. So that being said, there are people out there who are anti-fascists, who are organising and are using demonstrations and creating demonstrations to enact acts of political violence and physical violence on both the police and corporate structures and people they identify as fascists. There are also groups out there that are causing and organising demonstrations to cause acts of violence on black people and gay people and lefties, and also to intimidate newspapers into silence. There's good and bad in almost everybody. A lot of the anti-fascist groups have hearts in the right places. I would argue some of the fascist groups may have their hearts in the right places, but frankly I can't go there. I don't see why you can look down upon women, men and black people and gay people at all and feel good about yourself, but people do. So I once threw out a figure on YouTube saying there's probably about 150 anti-fascists in the whole of North America and there ain't much to worry about. Now, I've kind of reasserted myself on that one and I don't think it's true. Looking at my university, using some of my old contacts that I had in England, looking at a few things around the place, I actually kind of put out some feelers into the direction of Antifa last year, just to see if my own assertion that it was a load of garbage was true. And much to my surprise, I found it's not true. I'm estimating now there's probably about 3,000 to 5,000 committed Antifa activists, who mostly are part-time activists, but I'm estimating about 500 to 1,000 full-time, unemployed Antifa activists existing probably in North America. They mostly exist in the cities and the urban centres. Toronto's certainly got an active core group here. There is a large number of them who are planning for the inevitable fall of society. Now, this is something I talked about before, a long time ago, but the left is always waiting for society to collapse itself and then they'll build the socialist paradise from the remains. Other parts of the left want to bring down society to create the socialist paradise from the remains. The same is true for fascists, though. So the Antifa group is a little different. They're actually expecting society to collapse in of itself. At the same time, they're actually looking for ways that they can do it to help it collapse. It's been known for quite some time that they're actively planning to take out large parts of the internet structure to remove command and control from current society, and probably looking at removing electricity as well from areas that are critical to their needs. They are collecting, and they have collected, a large amount of data on people they identify as fascist, and they are intending to execute them in an event of societal failure. Now, I'm also fairly sure, though I haven't got the contacts, and I'm certainly not looking into it, that the far right wing is also doing the same things. This is not picking a side. Both of these sides are fundamentally flawed and a danger to all of us in the now, and are almost definitely a danger to us in SHTF. As I've said before, I'm not really a fan of political ideology of any type, and both of these are extremes of the same ideology. The ideology is that the group leader, the group itself, will control every aspect of life. And I'm not really a big fan of that, because I kind of like my freedom. Now, the book I'm going to review is actually a fun book, and I really enjoyed it, but the fact that it was on Remainder at Canada's most left-wing university should give those of you who are worried about Antifa pause for thought. It should make you feel cheerful, because frankly it didn't sell like hotcakes. but it is a very interesting book. And I'm going to review large parts of it tomorrow because it's full of very, very interesting things. But what the book actually gave me was a textbook how to start to do for my own anarchist group to subvert and control and overthrow society. And some of the ideas in this can definitely be used for preppers who are Antifa to help us out. But also it's got ideas in here that might help you if you're involved in a demonstration. The idea that demonstrations are fundamentally wrong is actually wrong. People should be able to demonstrate on the streets. Now, burning police cars and smashing Starbucks, I don't agree with burning police cars. But I don't also agree with smashing Starbucks because you're putting the staff who work there at risk, and that's not fair. Find the corporate headquarters and smash that up, right? But they don't do that. They're going for political, obvious targets that will have the most effect and make people question society. So they're doing it for specific reasons. And some of it's very funny. Some of the stunts Antifa are pulling are actually amusing. And we'll get into that when I do the review tomorrow. But all of it is designed to overthrow current society. Now the author, one of the authors of the book has been in jail for eco-terrorism and has been involved in this for a decade or more. And his voice and his viewpoints are actually kind of interesting. They talk about how to subvert many, many different things, how to get equipment, how to get food, how to get vehicles, how to get out of jail, how to deal with the police by using violence against the police to prevent police tactics. So there's quite a large section in it on how the Black Bloc actually communicates before events and after events, and how they organise within events. And it also gives some narratives of actual events. Now I'm guessing here, but I think they're talking about Portland, and that's something that I think would have been better stated. But again, people are trying to do, they're trying to get this book here, this book is to get people who are casually interested in the left, who may have heard of Antifa but aren't really radicalised, to read the book, and by the end of the book feel more empowered to start taking small radical steps. Because you start taking some small radical steps like defacing advertising and a few things like that, and putting up a few flyers, you might end up on a slippery slope to actually blowing up a substation or infiltrating right-wing groups. Because that book also talks very heavily about how to infiltrate right-wing groups to collect data on them and get them into trouble, and to actually find out where their homes are. So there's a lot of stuff in this book that if you're on the right wing, you might want to read to figure out how the left is actually looking at getting you. Because they are trying to get you, and that's something I didn't really appreciate, that they are actively seeking to kill right-wingers in Grid Down. Now all of these elite groups, whether it be Antifa or the Three Percenters or some fundamentalist Mormon Christian group that form little enclaves in wildlife areas, etc., 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 whereas Antifa is operating out of the cities, mainly in the university towns, all of these groups in Grid Down are fundamentally going to have three advantages. They're going to have a cohesive strategy, they're going to have supplies, and they're probably going to have the locations down pat that they can control. So this is a good idea to be in one of these groups. Well, no, it isn't, because they have three major disadvantages. Most people around them who survive aren't going to like them. They all fundamentally base themselves on extractive technologies and scavenging. The actual focus on sustainability with all of these groups is laughable. So unless society comes up in a couple of years, they're really going to be in trouble in about a year or so, depending on the weather. And the weather's not going to be good, in my opinion. The third problem these groups are going to have is that they don't get it, and a lot of preppers don't get it. When society falls, major fall of society, what you have is silence. There'll be no more radio, no more internet, no more newsprint, no more anything. All news will be verbal. All news will be local within the 5 miles of where you live. Sometimes people will come from 15 miles away to trade, and you will grab them to find out what's going on 15 miles away. All of these groups work on the exclusivity principle. Antifa believes it's exclusively got the information that fascism is coming back and evil, and they have to crush it and create a new society that's fair and equitable. The fascists believe that groups like Antifa are going to overthrow heteronormal society, white society, and need to be stopped because this is a fundamental threat, apparently, to them. But without an actual exclusive threat that actually really exists, all of these groups have got nothing. They're just a bunch of blowhards who think they were special and want to hurt other people to prove they're special, suddenly in a vacuum, surrounded by small groups, farmers, other survivalists. They're going to have a really hard time pushing their agenda in the long term, especially when normal people get together and start forming communities. At that point, these extremist groups, who are probably going through some hard times with internal fracture because they'll attack each other, these groups tend to do that, they attack each other, right? Often they attack each other when they don't have an external threat. It's a commonality. None of these groups actually are there for a positive purpose. They're there for a negative purpose. And negatively contrived groups, for example, a group that is only composed of fundamentalist Baptists, without other people around them to prove that they're good Baptists, they're going to start arguing about the extremes of Baptists' faith within their group. This is what happens. But a group that's there together to help everybody else out in the group and to help people survive and to help whoever they can around them survive no matter what, if it's safe and reasonable to do so, that group has a optimistic, a positive, a purpose in life. Negative groups like this, they're going to do well initially and then they're going to go Anyway, what do you think about Antifa? I think there's a lot of nonsense said online about it, a lot of crazy things online. I've seen a lot of right-wing channels put out videos claiming that Antifa is going to shut down X city tomorrow night or whatever, and it's just absolute nonsense. They are small, they are localized, they have some national and international communications but not a lot. The police are keeping a very close eye on them, as I'm sure the intelligence community. But in terms of an actual threat to cause a global or a national or even a regional SHTF, they don't really have one right now. Their major threat to me would be in SHTF if they were too close to me. They might cause me a lot of trouble initially. I might have to hide out for a while and wait for them to starve to death. I'll start taking them out one by one if they are actually a military threat to me. But anyway, that's it for me. Tomorrow I will review the book. I think you'll find it really interesting. Remember, in SHTF, if you don't prepare, tomorrow will always be worse than today. Toodles.